coming up throughout our Day 11 coverage of Broncos training camp. Zach Stevens shares his biggest riser throughout camp and his sleeper pick to make the final 53-man roster. Then rookie wideout Montrell Washington shares his mindset as a receiver and return specialist. And finally, Steve Atwater is back on the stage, joined by former Broncos offensive lineman Tyler Polumbus for analysis of today's practice. All that and so much more coming up next.
Welcome to Broncos Training Camp 2022 with Steve Atwater. Here's your host, Alexis Perry.
With just 4 days left of training camp, every snap counts with the first round of roster cuts coming up in less than a week. Hello, everyone, and welcome inside the UC Health Training Center. I'm Alexis Perry, joined by DNVR star Zach Stevens. Of course, the Hall of Famer Steve Atwater and Super Bowl 50 champion Tyler Polumbus will take the reins here in just a few minutes. But first, as we think back to Saturday's practice, day 10, it was probably one of the most memorable practices of camp so far. What were some of your biggest takeaways from day 10, Zach?
Well, the offense really bounced back after the defense got after them. There was a lot of pressure early on in practice from the defense, but then the offense settled down and ended practice really strong. You had Russell Wilson go out and lead a half-ending drive to get a field goal, and he made a great pass to Brandon Johnson, which set that all up. Now the offense is starting to stack days together.
Yes, that's exactly what we want to see. You know, through 10 days, several guys have caught our eye. For you, who do you think the biggest riser of camp has been so far?
Well, I think Kendall Hinton has done a fantastic job, and Baron Browning as well. And Baron Browning is a guy who last year started inside linebacker.
Yep.
Then what did we see? They move him, roll the dice, and take a gamble on him at outside linebacker this offseason. I was honestly pretty skeptical of that, Alexis.
Yeah.
But then what did we see Baron Browning do so far? He has rose. Last week he had his best week of camp. He had multiple sacks against the second string team, and then he gets taken up to the first team and has a great performance for a past couple of days. And one of the things that make him so special is his bend that he has, and that's something that bend is a really special thing. And we heard Jonas Griffith talk about his bend, say he's a freak athlete and has a freakish bend, and that's something that's very exciting, because when I think of bend, I think of Von Miller, and that just shows you how rare that trait is.
Yes, we love to see a Von Miller-esque player here in Denver, no doubt. I think Montrell Washington, he's been the biggest riser in my book. I mean, this guy really drafted to be a punt and kick returner for this team, but there's a good chance that he becomes a secret weapon within Russell Wilson's arsenal. So what has surprised you most about Montrell Washington's game thus far?
His receiving abilities, and Alexis.
Great hands.
Yes. Well, he was brought in here. Honestly, Nathaniel Hackett said it last week. He was brought in here to be a returner, and they had no idea what they were getting from him as a receiver. And Montrell Washington comes out and is now making more plays as a receiver than a returner. I expect him to still be a returner for the Broncos, but he's an all-around receiver. We're seeing him be able to take the top off the defense. We're able to see him be an all-around receiver, which is something that I personally did not expect, maybe his entire career, let alone right now.
Is there a Trell TD counter yet? Like, how many touchdowns do you think this guy has throughout camp? Have you counted?
Maybe leads the team right now.
Right, I know. This is unbelievable. I actually had a moment with him as he headed out to the practice field a little bit earlier to learn what has inspired his game throughout camp so far. Take a listen. Montrell, your first training camp here in the National Football League. We're through 10 days, and I think it's safe to say that you've made a big play each of those 10 days. What is fueling your fire right now throughout training camp?
Just coming out each day, trying to, just make a play, to be honest with you. Obviously, I'll have mistakes every day, but just trying to stick to the script and, just continue to make plays as much as possible, just get my name out there and noticed by the coaches.
You were drafted for your big play ability as a wide receiver as well as a return specialist. What's your mindset when you're back there when the ball's in your hands on special teams?
Just score, to be honest with you. That's the only thing I'm thinking of. I know if I can score on special teams, we kind of got a greater chance of honestly winning the game. So, when I'm back there, I'm just trying to score, to be honest.
Coach Hackett said that you and Russell Wilson, he's one of those guys that's really latched on to you. Why do you think that you guys have been able to build such great chemistry in such a short amount of time?
I've been trying to learn as much as possible from somebody like Russell, you know what I mean? It's like a dream come true, to be honest, just to be around somebody like him. So every morning, if he has an early session or anything like that, I'm trying to be the first person in there. I'm trying to get there before he gets there, just to show him, like, I'm trying to learn as much as possible. So that'll probably be what I have to say about that. It's been great.
Yeah. Tim Patrick, obviously a season-ending injury for him, heartbreaking for everyone. What was the reaction in the wide receivers room, and how do you guys work together to fill that void?
We know Tim went down and terrible thing that happened, but someone definitely has to step up and, not just say step in his role, but just step up as a whole. We all do. So just everyone trying to just do what they got to do their job, and, be there when everyone's number's called.
Well, we know that you have great hands, clearly a big heart for this game, but what else does Broncos country need to know about you?
Well, everybody's seen me flip, but I can do a little bit more. So hopefully I'll get to show you guys, a little bit more of my flipping ability. So
we'd love to see it today.
Hopefully, we'll see. Thank you.
Thank you
so much.
Zach, what are some of the situations that you could see Coach Hackett and really Russell Wilson utilizing Montreal Washington within this offense this season?
Well, in the KJ Hamler role, and I think that's the really exciting thing that Montreal Washington brings, because there's no replacement for KJ Hamler before this year, before they brought in Montreal Washington, and he can be the deep threat that the Broncos so desperately need, because what's one thing that Russell Wilson does better than anyone in the NFL? They call it his moon ball. He can throw it about 50, 60 yards in the air, but you need guys to get down the field and separate. Montreal Washington's speed has the ability to do that, so you can do it whether KJ's on the field or not on the field. Both of those guys on the field, that's very dangerous.
Yeah, I have a feeling Montreal Washington makes this 53-man roster. Not a hot take, really, whatsoever. I know it's only August, but who is your sleeper pick to make this final 53?
Well, I mentioned him earlier because he's been a riser. Kendall Hinton is a guy that I think will make this roster, in big part because of Tim Patrick's injury. It was terrible to see Tim go down last week, but one thing that Tim had was he was Mr. Dependable. And Russell Wilson was really going to count on that as the guy that he could go to catch the ball when passes need to be caught. And that's, I think, one thing that Kendall Hinton is going to be able to show, and has already started to show, that his hands are really, really good. And so I think that's going to be able to help fill in for Tim's role. He's not a one-for-one replacement. He's a very different player, but he can be that fourth or fifth receiver on the team that Russell Wilson can trust.
Yes, I hope to see him and the rest of these guys continue to impress today throughout this 2-hour moderate practice in shells. So they're just wearing their upper shells and shorts today and helmets. Obviously, this is not going to be full speed. They call this a yellow day here out at the UCL Training Center. So it's still going to be a fun one. Now, as I turn things over to the Hall of Famer Steve Atwater, I am so excited to introduce our guest for today, Tyler Polumbus, the Super Bowl 50 champion. The Cherry Creek / University of Colorado product entered the league in 2008 as an undrafted free agent and went on to enjoy an 8-year career in Denver, Seattle, Washington, and Atlanta. Polumbus rejoined the Denver Broncos in 2015, hoisted the Lombardi Trophy, and retired with his hometown team April of 2016. Now, Tyler is D-Mac's better half on 104.3 The Fan on The Drive, which you can catch weekdays from 2 to 6. Go Buffs! Steve, Tyler, take it away.
All right, thanks so much, JP. I'm honored to have the great TP, Tyler Polumbus, on the show, man.
Hi, buddy.
Welcome.
Hey, don't hurt me with that thing.
I thought for sure you were going to have your Super Bowl ring, so I had to wear mine. Like, I got to bring the big boy out.
Yeah.
And you left it at home.
I did not bring it out today. I think it kind of gets in the way if you got to put your hands in the pockets or anything. But, yeah, good to see you're wearing yours, pal.
I'm going to put mine in my pocket.
No.
So, TP, man, they're just talking a little bit about Montreal Washington.
Yeah.
Do you like this guy? He's a young guy, very confident. I like that interview. I thought he was going to mention something about fearless when Alexis spoke to him, but he didn't mention that. He just said he's trying to score touchdowns.
Well, on special teams, there's kind of two different philosophies. You could be ultra-conservative and just try to not mess up, try to not cough up the ball, not make any mistakes. And there are some coaches that really do have that philosophy. Most special teams coaches, they're trying to score. And Montreal Washington looks like he's going to have that unique, elite speed. Nowadays, most teams have got a guy like Montreal Washington. So he's going to have his work cut out for him to make it to the NFL. And I think the hardest part for rookie returners, learning when to press and learning when not to press. Making the safe decision at times.
Has he impressed you so far in camp?
Absolutely. In large part as a wide receiver, not so much as a returner, because we haven't really been able to see that.
Yeah.
The special teams aren't going in live bullets like the offense defense has. But he's had some really good moments. He was talking about the backflip. That was fun. Ended practice on that a few days ago. And he's got a unique. Who's going to step up as that fourth wide receiver now that Tim Patrick goes down? Definitely not the same type of wide receiver as Tim Patrick, but somebody's got to step up, and he's got a good shot at it.
Yeah, I think so. And I don't think it can be underestimated how good his hands are.
Yeah.
He's a speedy guy, but to be able to come in here as a rookie, get reps with the first team, be able to understand the playbook. And this is fairly early on, and Alexis and Zach mentioned it a little earlier that the offense is really just now starting to hit stride in training camp. Earlier, they seemed like, I won't say being dominated, but I think the defense got to be getting the better of the offense until just this weekend.
You know, I thought the first 2 days of training camp, the offense came out and looked really beyond my expectations. Usually the defense dominates because, Steve, you big dummies over there on defense, you don't have to learn anything.
Well, exactly.
I mean, it's simple. How many things you really got to learn over there, huh, Steve?
It's a little easier for us. Yeah, you know, we get banged around our heads a little bit.
So yeah, most of the time the offense is behind the defense. I thought the first 2 days offense looked good, and then they really struggled for a few days. Russ and the wide receivers they weren't on the same page. Russ was throwing it in, the wide receiver was breaking out, or vice versa. And I'm not sure whose fault that was, the receiver, Russ's, but it seems like things have settled down here a little bit. They're starting to find their groove, and Russell Wilson has been looking really good over the last couple days.
All right, 4 more days of training camp. At what point in training camp do the players start feeling like, hey, man, I've had enough?
Well, I don't think
it can't be at that point right now, right?
I don't think they're ever going to hit that point. Are you kidding me? First off, the new CBA prevents that. But second off, Hackett has taken it to the next degree. Honestly, Steve, I don't know. I'd be curious your thoughts on it. But I don't know as a player, as an offensive lineman, how prepared I would feel in a camp like this. This is only their 3rd or 4th day going in pads. I mean, they're just in uppers today, but they haven't had a ton of padded practices. And as an O-line, D-line, I feel like I need those reps, those live collisions, because you can't replicate as an offensive lineman, defensive lineman, you can't replicate what you do without those pads on. So, you know, I'm sure Hackett's got a great game plan. He's got a rhyme and reason. This is what they did out in Green Bay, and obviously it was very, very successful out there. I just know I probably would wonder, am I battle tested enough? I mean, this is just a different era.
Yeah, I agree with that. And for me, I always felt like I had to have some level of physicality, some level of like live contact before I went into a game. Even if it was a preseason game, I felt that way. But I think the game has changed so much, and I think coaches are trying to come up with better methods of having guys prepare without risking them for injury, obviously.
I mean, these guys are worth millions and millions of dollars to this business. That's what this is. And so you got to find the right balance of protecting them, getting the work in. Obviously, we've had some devastating injuries already. When Tim Patrick went down, holy cow, the whole place just went silent. The whole place went silent. Media members, I was down there on the sideline, media members had their hands in the face. And as a coach, that's just your worst nightmare. So that's what Hackett and these modern coaches, they're trying to find the best way to balance that, get enough work in, and yet make sure that you get your players to the season, because that's when you need them.
Yeah, and we have quite a few injuries. Injuries are stacking up a little bit, but none, fortunately, are as serious as Tim Patrick's and Demarie Crockett's.
Right.
But are you starting to get concerned about the injuries, or you feel like, hey, it's going to be some of that? It's not too bad right now.
I mean, they're playing football, so the injury rate of NFL players is 100%. 100% of the guys that play in this league will get hurt. That's just a fact. So you can't avoid it. Fortunately, you've only had 2 real serious ones, and I don't want to discount that, because for those guys, that's absolutely devastating.
Right.
And Tim Patrick in particular for the team, that's devastating. But no, I'm not overly concerned about the injuries. You got to play football, and injuries are part of the game.
Yeah. Now, how can you practice in a way to where you can ensure you don't get hurt? Or can you do that?
You can. I mean, what they've been going out there doing.
As a player.
Yeah. Well, I mean, as a coach, you got to coach it up in the players, because if you don't tell the players how to practice, especially those young guys, hey, they're going to be going 100%. They're going to be finishing guys. They're going to be putting them on their back. And you got to teach these guys how to go like to the whistle, and then you're done. You got to keep everybody up. You don't want to have anybody hitting the ground. I mean, how many times over the course of practice do you hear a coach say, stay up, stay up, stay up?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that happens for a reason, because the majority of injuries happen when 2 guys go to the ground, somebody trips over somebody, you get that sprained ankle or something worse.
Yeah. All right, Ty, so can you give me your big picture view of how you feel about this team at this point?
Sure. You know, I'll kind of just go positional groups. one by one here, but secondary has been they've been the star of training camp by far the best positional group.
We know Pat Surtain has been balling.
Yep.
Has Ronald Darby? How's he looked to you?
You know, Darby's looked fine to me, and I've honestly had my questions. How's he going to hold up as a number 2 corner full time? You know, he had one moment where Cortland Sutton caught a deep ball over his head, but outside of that, honestly, he's looked pretty dang good to me. The secondary as a whole, Kareem Jackson still looks young. He still looks energetic. I've been really encouraged by that secondary. The defense is a little bit of a wild card to me. Your pass rushers, what's going to happen there with the pass rushers? Can Bradley Chubb stay healthy? If he can, I've got no doubt in my mind that he's about to have a breakout season. You know, and then on the other side, can Randy Gregory stay on the field for the whole season? And will you get him back for week 1 or not? Without those guys, it gets pretty thin pretty quick at the pass rush department. Give Baron Browning a lot of credit, though, Steve. Hey, most of the time when you change positions in your second year, it's usually not a good sign.
Yeah.
I mean, if you change positions, it wasn't working at your first position in your rookie year.
Yeah.
So if they change you, the odds of it working out are not very high. And I said that on my show multiple times, and I got to give Baron Browning a lot of credit. He's looked tremendous out there at outside linebacker. And then on the opposite side of the ball, the hardest part of this offense is the running game. For offensive linemen that have not been in this system, that wide zone running game, it is different. You got to get out and you got to run, and you're running laterally. It's different than what Quinn Miners has done previously, what a lot of these guys have done.
I want to ask the question on that. So when you're getting out running, what do defenses do to try and slow you down? I mean, do they try to get into you earlier, you know, to try to engage you earlier in the process to try and throw you off your tracks?
Yeah. Well, this offensive running game, it's evolved over the years. And if you think back to when you were playing, when you were winning Super Bowls and TD, it would start wide, but everything rolled back.
Yeah.
So you'd call it wide zone, but you started right and then you rolled back. Well, defenses started to pick up on that, so the linebackers would slow play it. They'd play backside. So now what's had to happen is you've had to evolve the running game. You got to try to hit front side. And if you could get that front side, hey, go take it all the way around that tight end if you want to. But it's about getting up to that second level. That's where you really get the home run balls. If you don't get to the second level linebackers, you'll still pick up 3 to 6 yards. But if you get those linebackers, that's when you get those home runs.
Now, how do the offensive linemen stay in shape for this? I mean, do you guys got to run extra after practice to make sure that, all right, man, I know I got to be running a lot during the games and you know, even practice, I'm sure you guys got to run quite a bit.
You know, I think Hackett's got I don't know, I've never asked him, but I think he's got a similar philosophy to Mike Shanahan.
But what did you guys do?
Well, we got our work in during practice.
Okay.
And what we were doing was so challenging and so different just from an aerobic standpoint. You know, if you start on the left hash and you call it 18-4, so you've got a fullback on the field, you're going wide right, you'll run from that hash mark all the way past the right side numbers every single play.
Wow.
So you're running 15, 20 yards, and then you go downfield to try to cover on every single play. And you really do get your work in throughout practice. And that's what happens because it's so different than running north-south in that phone booth. That you move your guys by going lateral rather than north and south.
That's interesting. So back when we played, I don't remember our offensive linemen rotating very much. Mm-hmm. But I also noticed that Coach Hackett he wants to where multiple guys can play. They're learning different positions in that. How do they prepare for that? Or do you think they're going to have to rotate guys in to make sure that they're
right.
their best selves when they're on the field?
The plan is never to rotate offensive linemen. I mean, if you could play the same starting 5 all season long, that's what you'd prefer to do. My first year in the NFL, I dressed for every single game as the swing tackle, so I was the backup. I didn't play in a single down. Ryan Harris, Ryan Clady, they didn't get a hangnail. They didn't miss a single rep all season long. So that's always your preference. They have rotated Natani Muti in to right guard, a little bit at left guard. And I think that's more so about developing your swing interior player. So on your offensive line on game day, you'll usually dress 7. So you got your starting 5, then you got to have a swing tackle, and you got to have a swing interior guy that can cover. Yeah, either guards or center. I think that's what's going on. I mean, Quinn Miners, it looks to me like he's got the inside track at being the starting right guard. And then at right tackle, that's the only real wild card left, because if you were to ask me before training camp began, I would have said Billy Turner's probably the favorite in the clubhouse. Well, he's on the PUP. And then Tom Compton, just kind of out of nowhere before training camp, ends up on the PUP.
Yeah.
Both those guys are veteran players, and now Calvin Anderson is getting all the reps.
And Calvin, I think previously, in games at least, he had only played on
the left side.
On the left side.
Well,
yes.
I don't know if that's where he's only played, but I know he's played a lot over there. And, you know, he's got the athleticism to play on the left side. He's not as refined as Billy Turner. He's not as refined as even Tom Compton, but he's got way more athleticism. He's younger. He seems like, honestly, a brilliant young man. I've had him on the show, talking to him.
Yeah, he's awesome.
Just very articulate. It seems like got a super high IQ. And so I think he's probably, I mean, based off the reps, if you get all the reps throughout training camp, it's going to be hard to replace you.
Yeah, and you're doing something right.
Yeah.
You know, because coaches, when you're making mistakes in that, they're going to put somebody else in.
Yep.
Now, what about Cam Fleming? What do you see as his role? I know once Tom Compton was placed on PUP, on physically able to perform, they went out and re-signed Cam Fleming, and he was here on the roster last year. What do you think about him, and what role will he play this year?
You know, Cam Fleming is a veteran. He's been around the block. He's played a lot of football. To me, he's not a great schematic fit for what they're doing here in Denver.
Okay.
It kind of feels like he was a late addition simply because you probably didn't plan on Tom Compton being on the PUP.
Right.
That surgery happened kind of last second. And so you had to bring in another tackle. It's a guy that you know. It's a guy that you trust. Probably not as athletic as you need to be a starter in this system.
Okay.
But in terms of backup, hey, man, all you want is a guy that you could trust. You don't have to spend a lot of time with him from a mental perspective. So until Tom Compton or Billy Turner comes back, maybe they carry him.
Yeah. Now, have you seen in your playing career where a guy that you thought, hey, man, he's not suited for this, and then he comes into camp and then he lights everybody up? Like, whoa, I didn't know he could do that.
Yeah, I mean, you know, usually in this scheme, that happens with the bigger body guys because you just kind of assume, hey, you're a 320-pounder, you're a 330-pounder. You can't get out there and run like we got to run in this scheme. Well, every now and then you get those guys that pop up. And Quinn Miners, I've been watching him very closely because he's the one in terms of body type that really doesn't fit the mold of what you traditionally do in this scheme. You kind of got the lighter-bodied offensive lineman because you got to get out and run. But Quinn is a fast guy. I looked up his 40 time just the other day, and he ran like a 4.99 40 at like 325 pounds. So, you know, he's lost a little bit of weight, he said. I think he's hovering around 320, 318, somewhere in that ballpark. And so far, he looks good.
And he can knock over trees.
Yeah, and he can. Not only can he knock him over, he can bench press him.
He can bench press him.
Yeah.
Yeah, you see Russell Wilson there. Quinn Miners, another shot of Quinn Miners. Russell Wilson, great quarterback. We know that. You got a chance to play with one of the greats in Peyton Manning.
Yeah.
And prior to that, you were in Seattle. And you just missed Russell Wilson, right? You were a year before Russell.
Correct. Yes, that's right. So I had Matt Hasselbeck and DeVaris Jackson out there in Seattle, and then they brought Russ in the following year.
Okay. And I always like asking guys, so what did you notice as a difference? Because the first really Hall of Fame type quarterback you got was when you came to Denver with Peyton Manning.
Yeah.
What did you notice was different about him than the other quarterbacks?
Yeah, I mean, it's just everything. It's hard to pick out a singular detail, but I mean, I was in year 8 in the NFL when I got back to Denver playing with Peyton Manning. I'll never forget the first time I got in that huddle. I felt like a rookie. I was like shaking in my cleats because I don't want to get Peyton Manning hurt. You know, I don't want to get Peyton Manning hit. I don't want to let him down. But it's the work ethic. It's just the way that you go about your business, the accountability. And there's something to just being, when you're a Hall of Famer, and I do think Russell Wilson's going to be a Hall of Famer.
Yes.
When you're in that category, you just walk in day one and you command the respect of the entire building. And you can't do that unless you've got the performance on the field to back it up. Russ is going to be a way different leader than Peyton Manning. Way different leader. Different personalities. But as long as you back it up on the field, it really doesn't matter what your leadership style is. The guys will follow.
Now, as a quarterback, do you have to be great friends with all of your offensive linemen, or can you lead from like this higher level? You know, like, hey, I'm kind of untouchable, but you guys got to listen to. You don't have to listen to them, but,
right?
You know.
No, I think it's a really good question. Obviously, chemistry is extremely important. You got to have a brotherhood, and you got to be able to know that you trust the guy. You got to have fun with the guy to some degree. But hey, I'm not gonna lie. Peyton Manning was his own entity. It's not like when he walked in that building, he wasn't sitting down in the lunchroom hanging out for 45 minutes like the rest of us slappies. He
had something to do.
Yeah, he was getting his food and he was going up to the meeting room and watching film. So he was a little bit separated. But Peyton did a great job. Although you didn't necessarily hang out with him a ton throughout the day, he would always make up for it. He would have those Thursday night dinners that he would take all the offense out. And, you know, he'd pay for it. We'd have a grand old time. We'd get to hang out, laugh, just enjoy some time away from the field. I don't think you have to be best friends with your quarterback.
Right.
You just gotta respect him. And he's got to command that respect. And honestly, there's got to be a tiny bit of fear there, too.
Yeah.
I don't know if Russell Wilson is the type of fear-motivating guy, but there's got to be a little bit of fear. Like, if I let this guy down, what are the consequences?
Yeah. And a lot of times that may be fear from the actual player in terms of he may say something to get on you. Or I would say in Russell Wilson's case, it's probably, if you don't do it, the coaches will be the ones who will be the bad guys who's going to get on the players' backs.
Yeah, but although Russell Wilson, he's not going to be that fear-motivated leader.
Yeah.
He's going to have a large voice, and sometimes the fear is as simple as this. Russ doesn't trust me. If Russ doesn't trust me, he's going to tell the coaches that. If he tells the coaches that, well, I'm not going to be on the field.
I'm out of here.
So you don't even have to lead with that style. It's more just the consequences of if I'm not accountable, and I'm not talking about getting beat physically. Everybody gets beat physically. It's the mental stuff that drives quarterbacks nuts. If you're not accountable from the mental perspective, hey, they'll just get rid of you.
And we've seen Russ and Peyton Manning interacting some. Russ, said that he's contacted Peyton Manning, and they're able to collaborate on a few things. What can Russ, at this stage in his career, learn from Peyton Manning from his playing days?
Well, I think the biggest thing is the transition period. Peyton Manning came into the Broncos in year one, and I think the first 4 games, I forget what was it, like 1-3, something like that. It wasn't a great record in the first 3 or 4 games, and then they just went on an absolute tear, and they were one of the best offenses in the NFL. So the biggest thing that Russ can learn, how do you transition from what you've done previously at a previous stop, fit in with the new coach, yet get all of the plays that you like in, and find that chemistry, that balance with Nathaniel Hackett. John Fox, he let Peyton Manning do his deal out there. Russ is not necessarily going to be running the show at the line of scrimmage like Peyton Manning did, but he's got to be able to communicate well with Nathaniel Hackett so they build that chemistry early on.
One other thing, Russ Wilson, being the height that he is, I'm not sure if he's 5'11", 6 feet, but he's been effective, whatever his height is.
Yeah.
How does that work? I mean, because, again, you would think that the taller quarterbacks would have an easier time. Is it that lanes are created that he's able to throw in? Is he throwing over the heads of the offensive linemen? How does that work?
I don't say this disrespectfully at all because, like I said, Russell Wilson is a Hall of Fame quarterback. I don't know that Russell Wilson has the ability to just take 5 steps, plant his foot, and throw. And a large part of that is due to the height. He's got to maneuver in the pocket, step up, go to the right, find the lane, or whether he's doing that spin move, rolling out over his left shoulder, whatever it is, he's got to kind of find that lane. The height is a real issue. It clearly has not prevented him from being successful.
Right.
He's been uber successful. But there's a reason why when you watch Russell Wilson games, you see things just get off schedule a little bit more often. And I do think the height is a part of that.
Yeah. Well, I guess he does have a great grasp of the offense and knowing where the players are supposed to be, and I guess he just has to navigate to a position where he can see them and then deliver the pass accurately.
The biggest thing that you can do as a quarterback, know where the ball is going to go pre-snap. So you walk up to the line of scrimmage, you know what the routes are that you've called, you look at the coverage, you identify it, and you already know what should be open. Assuming your guy doesn't slip and fall down, you more or less know what guy you're going to throw to. And that helps you play on time. That helps you get rid of the ball before you've got a bunch of big bodies up in your face.
Yeah. And guys got to be in the right place with the timing in that. And sometimes if a guy is being pressed or jammed at the line of scrimmage, that can throw off the timing some, but the quarterback has to be aware of all that.
Yeah. And Nathaniel Hackett, he's made an interesting decision this year. No 7-on-7s. They've not been doing 7-on-7s. I don't think I've ever seen that. They finally did one-on-ones on Saturday. First time they've done one-on-ones all training camp. I'm kind of not to hijack your own show here, Steve, but I'm curious to get your thoughts on that. You know, as a defensive player going up against those wide receivers, how important do you think those 7-on-7s were for an offensive guy, for the defensive guys, and do you think replacing it with more teamwork is the right call?
I definitely think teamwork is most effective. That way you get a chance to get a realistic picture of what they're doing on offense. Because when you don't have the offensive lineman there, we're just doing 7-on-7, I can see the quarterback clearly, but then when offensive linemen are there, I can't see them. I got to get on my tiptoes to see the quarterback. Right. You know, it poses realistic problems for the defense that they're going to see. It makes it difficult, like it's going to be in the game. So, yeah, I'm down for it. The team drills, more team drills, less 7-on-7. Now, I think the one-on-one drills certainly help defensive players just because I think that's as difficult as it's going to get, right?
Oh, yeah.
You don't have anybody else to worry about on the field, and, you know, you can just you and this receiver over here. And if you can cover him in this situation, when all the other players get on the field, it's much easier.
You know, I don't have a whole lot that I've questioned from Nathaniel Hackett. Honestly, if I was out there and I was on that field, Hackett would probably be my favorite coach I've ever played for. Number one, he's fun, he's engaging. Number two, he takes care of you. You get on that field, you get off that field. He's going to treat you with respect in terms of we're not going to go full pads every day. You got to earn, as long as you're working hard out there, hey, we'll take care of you in the days after we go full pads. I got to say, though, just from an outside perspective, the only thing that I've kind of questioned is this lack of 7-on-7s, this lack of one-on-ones.
So you think it's important then?
I do think it's important, and here's why. When you go in 11-on-11s, in theory, I know what he's saying. We want to play real football. We want to have pass rush in front of Russell Wilson. He's got to step up, find that lane, throw the ball. But sometimes you get in a team period and your right tackle just gets beat. And all of a sudden you got a guy in front of your face and you can't get rid of the ball, so everything gets off schedule. For 7-on-7s for the offense, hey, that's a free opportunity to go out there and just work on your timing. Yeah, it's an advantage to the offense, but you know you're going to work on your timing of the routes and the quarterbacks. And one-on-ones for O-line, D-line, I know for me, that was the only time that I felt comfortable experimenting with my craft. If I wanted to go out there and try something new, try a radically different technique, I would do it because there was no fear of something going wrong. Whereas once I go out there in 11-on-11s into the team period, hey, I'm not trying anything new because if I try something new and I get the play blowing up, well, everybody's going to be chewing me out, you know?
Yeah, but I mean, you can communicate to the coach, hey, coach, I'm going to be trying a few things here, so, hey, if I get beat here, don't take it personally. Just know that, hey, this is kind of because we got to have a space for that. I understand what you're saying.
They usually don't say that's okay if you get beat, though, Steve. They usually don't say that's all right.
Yeah, no, you're right. You're right. Like, that's okay, T. He was trying something.
Right. But, hey, I say all that, and Matt LaFleur is the most successful first-time head coach in the history of the NFL. This is what they've been doing out there in Green Bay. The system works. You just got to make sure that your guys buy into it. You got to explain all your reasoning. And by all accounts, it seems like Nathaniel Hackett over-communicates with his team. Like, these guys, they all know their schedule 4 or 5 days out, when they're going to be in pads, when they're going to be in jog-through. I don't know if you're anything like me, Steve, but the first thing I did when I walked into training camp, I walked up to that bulletin board and I looked, does it say full pads? Does it say walk-through? What does it say?
Yeah.
You know, and I never knew what was coming up the next day.
Yeah.
These guys know what's happening a week out, and I love that.
Yeah, so do I. And I told Coach Hackett, we were talking one day. I was telling him that one of the things that when Mike Shanahan was here, he kept us so informed with everything, and I think that gave us a level of comfort. Just like you saying, how these players, you can imagine how these players feel. That's the feeling that we got, because he was so organized and detailed, and he kept us in the loop of what was going on.
Yeah.
Got Nick Bonito, the rookie. Yeah, like I said, that outside linebackers room is going to be deep, especially if Randy Gregory and Bradley Chubb are able to stay healthy this season. But you mentioned 56,
Baron Browning.
My guy Baron Browning. Will he and Nick Bonito be in a battle there?
Probably, yeah. Honestly, if you were to ask me today, I've seen Baron Browning pop out more than Nick Bonito, but you know how it is. We're out here at training camp. We don't have the film. You get one shot at viewing what you watch. And if you don't have your eyes on the right guy, you just miss it. So I'm not going to sit here and tell you that I know everything that Nick Bonito has done. I don't. I just know that Baron Browning, he's made my notes a little bit more.
Yeah, and obviously we still got Jonathan Cooper, Malik Reed, those guys still battling as well, Aaron Patrick. So it's going to be a good battle for that edge position. We're going to have some good quality guys playing there. So, hey, TP, we're going to wrap it up. Thanks so much, buddy. Man. You're the man. Great analysis as always. And AP, we're going to send it back over to you.
Thanks, Steve. I just wanted to give a quick shout out to the Outlaws football team of the Arapahoe Youth League who were in the community corner today. Dalton Reisner went over before practice to say hello to the future stars of the game. Who knows, maybe the next Dalton Reisner, Colorado native playing for his hometown team, is in that group right there. Thanks so much for coming out, guys. Now, Steve, practice just wrapped up, and this was a crazy play to end it. Cortland Sutton, Mawson, Ronald Darby at the end of practice. What a catch. I will say there was quite a bit of pass interference on that play. What'd you think?
Yeah, a little bit of pass interference, but what a way to end practice. You know, all the fans, they love the big plays by the offense. Obviously, the team got hyped up by that, but hey, as a defensive back, that hurt a little bit.
Hurts just a little bit.
Just a little bit.
You know, somebody else who came up with a few big catches today, Albert Okuwebunam. How have you really seen him grow throughout these first 11 days of camp?
Well, I think he's been doing a solid job of understanding the offense, understanding where he needs to be, what his role is going to be, and I think right now he's the clear-cut number one for this position. Now, I think when Greg Dulcich is able to show a little bit more, he may be able to push him a little bit. But right now, I think Albert O is clearly in that number one position, and deservedly so.
Great pronunciation of Greg Dulcich, by the way. Something that you've actually truly never messed up. I just want to point that out for Ryan Edwards, who I know is watching this show, trying to call out the Hall of Famer last week. I really want to talk about the outside zone scheme a little bit in terms of Javonte Williams and Melvin Gordon. How could we see them utilized, and really how often could we see them utilized this upcoming season thanks to the outside zone scheme?
Yeah, well, I think both of them are going to be utilized quite a bit. It's a very explosive offense, especially if you have the offensive linemen who have the ability to get off the ball, run.
Yes.
They got to be in great shape because, you know, again, it requires a lot of running. And the running backs will have a chance to either hit it on the front side and make it difficult for those backside guys to get there. And if they over pursue, guess what? He's going to cut it on the backside. And, hey, it's smooth sailing.
Safe to say more than 25 combined carries between those guys this year?
Most definitely. That was I think, a frustrating point, I would imagine, for the running backs. But for us watching the game, we know we have these two super talented running backs. And for them, between them, to only get 20 carries a game, many times that was frustrating for us. So I think they'll be utilized much more this year. And it's going to be for the benefit of the team.
Steve, the first preseason game just 5 days away, Saturday night up against the Dallas Cowboys. What do you think we're going to see from this Broncos team on both sides of the ball?
Well, offensively, we definitely – I don't know how much we'll see of the ones, but we'll definitely see quite a large dose of the twos and threes to see who will be backing up the starters. Montreal Washington, I'm sure we're going to see a good dose of him, especially on the return units and at the wide receiver position, seeing if he can solidify that fourth wide receiver position there. And defense has played well right from the start. So I think it's going to be a great defensive game as well. I'm anxious to see Montreal Williams on the special teams and also all the other guys, especially the rookies, running down on special teams, showing that, hey, I want to play this game at a high level. I want to be on the field. I want to be a member of this football team. You show that in these preseason games on special teams.
All right, well, tomorrow it is a full padded practice out here at the UC Health Training Center, so we really hope that you guys can make it out. If you can't, you know that we'll have you covered right here on the Broncos YouTube channel, DenverBroncos.com, and, of course, the Broncos 365 app. Former Broncos defensive end Alfred Williams, he will be on the stage here with Steve Atwater. I mean, come for the football, but stay for the comedic relief. You guys are always hilarious together. I have to assume you're looking forward to this one.
Always looking forward to seeing my guy Alfred. Big Al, he's been a great friend of mine for many years. Super talented defensive end, outside linebacker for us, and it's going to be a lot of fun. He's always fun to talk with.
Well, you guys know where to find it. For all of us here, Steve Atwater, of course, Tyler Polumbus, Zach Stevens, and our entire Broncos broadcast crew, we thank you all so much for watching. We will see you tomorrow. Day 12 already.
It's here.
It's here.